For 3 years, I pushed my sister Solen's wheelchair. I bathed her, dressed her, helped her to the bathroom, cooked her meals, and watched her stare out the window with tears running down her face. The car accident on Highway 17 had stolen everything from her, the doctors said. A drunk driver ran a red light and T-boned her sedan on the driver's side. She survived, but her spine did not. T12 vertebra compression fracture with complete paralysis from the waist down. No hope of recovery. That was what the neurologist told us at Medical University of South Carolina 3 years ago. I held my sister's hand while she sobbed, promising her I would take care of her for as long as she needed. I was 60 years old then, a recently retired physical therapist. My husband Corbett and I had just started planning our retirement travels. Instead, I moved into the guest house behind Solen's Charleston home to be her full-time caregiver. Her husband Grafton worked long hours as an investment manager and traveled frequently for business. Someone needed to be there. Solen was 55 when the accident happened. She had always been the beautiful one, the charming one, the one who married wealth and lived in a historic home south of Broad Street. I was the practical sister who worked for a living and married a high school history teacher. But none of that mattered after the accident. She needed me, and I came without hesitation. Those first months were brutal. Solen fell into deep depression, refused physical therapy, talked about ending her life. I sat with her through the dark nights when she could not sleep because of phantom pains. I encouraged her when she wanted to give up. Slowly, she stabilized. She accepted her new reality and found small joys. Reading, gardening from her wheelchair, video calls with friends. Grafton seemed devoted. He hired the best doctors, bought the most expensive wheelchair, renovated the house to be fully accessible. He told her he loved her no matter what. I believed him. 2 months ago, Grafton's elderly mother passed away in Virginia. She left him everything. The family estate, investments, properties. Total value was $2.3 million. The inheritance cleared on March 15th. I remember because Grafton took us to Peninsula Grill to celebrate. He ordered champagne and told Solen they could finally afford the experimental treatments in Switzerland she had been researching. She cried happy tears. I was thrilled for them. Money could not fix her spine, but it could buy comfort and possibilities. Grafton seemed genuinely excited about using the inheritance to improve Solen's quality of life. But 2 weeks later, on March 29th, Grafton collapsed in his office downtown. Massive heart attack. He was 61 years old, athletic, no history of heart problems. The ambulance rushed him to Musk, but he was pronounced dead on arrival. I held Solen while she screamed. The grief was overwhelming. First paralysis, now widowhood. How much could one person endure? The funeral was on April 2nd. A beautiful service at St. Michael's Episcopal Church, followed by burial in Magnolia Cemetery. Solen sat in her wheelchair at the graveside, staring at the casket with empty eyes. I wheeled her home afterward, helped her into bed, and gave her a sedative prescribed by her doctor. The next morning, April 3rd, I woke up early in the guest house. Corbett had returned to our home in Mount Pleasant the night before, but I stayed to help Solen through the first terrible day after burying her husband. I made coffee and prepared to go into the main house around 7. But something made me look out the window first. What I saw made my coffee cup slip from my hands and shatter on the floor. Solen was standing in the garden. Not sitting in her wheelchair. Standing. She was wearing yoga pants and a tank top, bending down to pull weeds from a flower bed. Her legs were strong, stable, bearing her full weight. She moved fluidly, naturally, like someone who had never lost the ability to walk. I stood frozen at the window, my brain unable to process what my eyes were seeing. This was impossible. Paralysis from spinal cord injury does not reverse overnight. It does not reverse at all. I had been a physical therapist for 38 years. I understood neurology. What I was watching defied everything I knew about medicine. Solen stood up from the garden bed, brushed dirt off her hands, and walked toward the house. Not shuffled, not limped. Walked with perfect gait and posture. She disappeared inside through the back door. I stood at my window, shaking, trying to make sense of what I had just witnessed. Had I imagined it? Was I still asleep? I pinched my arm hard. The pain was real. I grabbed my phone and called Corbett. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely dial. Temperance? What is wrong? Are you okay? His voice was thick with sleep. Corbett, I just saw Solen walking. In the garden. She was standing, bending, moving normally. Silence. Then, carefully, he said, "Honey, that is not possible. Maybe you saw something else? A shadow?" It was not a shadow. It was my sister, standing on two functioning legs, pulling weeds from her garden. My voice cracked. "Corbett, she has been lying to us. For 3 years, she has been lying." He tried to calm me down, suggesting reasonable explanations. Maybe the paralysis was not as complete as the doctors thought. Maybe she had been doing secret physical therapy and wanted to surprise everyone. But nothing he said made sense. I knew my sister's medical records. I had reviewed them extensively with her neurologist, Dr. Greer Voss. Complete paralysis. No nerve function below T12. Zero chance of recovery. This was not a medical miracle. This was something else. I need to install cameras, I told Corbett. I need to see what else she is doing when she thinks no one is watching. Temperance, that is your sister. You cannot spy on her. My sister has been deceiving me for 3 years. I gave up my retirement to take care of her. I bathed her, Corbett. I helped her to the toilet. If she has been faking this whole time, I need to know why. Corbett sighed. Okay, but be careful. If you are right about this, there is something very wrong happening. I ordered cameras online that morning. Small, wireless, motion-activated cameras that could be hidden easily. Express shipping. They would arrive the next day. In the meantime, I had to pretend everything was normal. I went to the main house around 9, letting myself in with my key. Solen was in her wheelchair in the living room, exactly where I expected to find her. She looked pale and exhausted, red-eyed from crying. "Morning, Tempe," she said softly. She had called me Tempe since childhood. "How are you holding up, sweetheart?" I asked, walking over to hug her. It took everything in me to keep my voice steady. "I do not know how I will survive this," she whispered. "First my legs, now Grafton. I have nothing left." I held her, feeling her body shake with sobs. And I felt sick, because either I had hallucinated that morning, or my sister was the most manipulative person I had ever known. I made her breakfast, helped her shower, changed her bed linens, all the things I had done every day for 3 years. She never stood up, never put weight on her legs. She was completely committed to the performance. That night, I barely slept. The cameras arrived by noon the next day. I waited until Solen took her afternoon nap, then I installed them. One in the living room, hidden in a bookshelf. One in the kitchen, tucked behind a decorative plate. One in the hallway near her bedroom. And one in the garden, disguised in a planter. All 4 cameras connected to an app on my phone. I could watch live footage or review recordings. My hands shook as I positioned the last camera. This felt like a violation, but I needed the truth. That evening, I told Solen I needed to go home to Corbett for a few days but would check on her daily. She thanked me tearfully, saying she understood and would manage with the meal delivery service and a part-time aide. I hugged her goodbye and drove to Mount Pleasant. Corbett was waiting with dinner and wine. "Are the cameras in place?" he asked quietly. I nodded. "Now we wait." We did not have to wait long. At 10:30 that night, I checked the app on my phone. The living room camera showed Solen in her wheelchair, reading. Normal. I checked again at 11. She was wheeling herself toward her bedroom. Still normal. But at midnight, the hallway camera caught something that made my blood run cold. Solen stood up from her wheelchair, stretched her arms over her head, and walked down the hallway toward the kitchen. Her gait was perfect, strong, confident, no hesitation. I grabbed Corbett's arm. Look at this." He watched the footage, his face going pale. "Oh my God, Temperance, you were right." We watched as Solen made herself a snack in the kitchen, standing at the counter, opening cabinets, moving completely normally. She ate while leaning against the counter, scrolling through her phone. After 20 minutes, she walked back to her bedroom, got into bed, and turned off the light. 3 years, I whispered. 3 years of lying. Corbett put his arm around me. Why would she do this? What could possibly be worth faking paralysis for 3 years? I did not have an answer. But I knew I needed more evidence before confronting her. Over the next week, I collected footage. Every night, once Solen thought she was alone, she would get up and walk freely around the house. She exercised. She danced to music. She cooked elaborate meals. During the day, when I visited or when the aide came, she was completely paralyzed. The performance was flawless, but it was the footage from April 10th that changed everything. That night, a man came to the house. He let himself in through the back door around 11 p.m., clearly familiar with the property. He was younger than Solen, maybe early 40s, fit and handsome. I did not recognize him. Solen stood up from her wheelchair the moment he entered. She walked to him, and they kissed. Passionately. Then they talked for hours in the kitchen. I could not hear the audio clearly, the cameras I bought were video only, but I could see their body language. Intimate. Comfortable. This was not a new relationship. Who is that? Corbett asked, watching over my shoulder. I have no idea, but she knows him well. The man left around 2 a.m. Solen locked the door behind him, returned to her wheelchair, and went to bed. The next morning, I did something I am not proud of. I went through Solen's phone records. Grafton's lawyer, Devereaux Sterling, had given me access to the estate accounts to help manage bills during this difficult time. The phone records were part of that. I found hundreds of calls and texts to a number saved under the name LM. The messages were mostly deleted, but a few remained. Can't wait to see you tonight. G is away, come over. Soon we'll have everything we ever wanted. My stomach turned. I ran a reverse lookup on the phone number. Lennox Merrick, age 42, occupation, personal trainer. I did more digging. Lennox had been Solen's trainer before the accident. His business website showed testimonials, photos of clients. And there, in a photo from 4 years ago, was Lennox with Solen. They were at some fitness competition, both wearing athletic gear, his arm around her waist. The photo was dated 6 months before the accident. She was having an affair, Corbett said quietly when I showed him everything. But why fake paralysis? Control, I said slowly as the pieces started falling into place. Think about it. Grafton was wealthy, but his real wealth was tied up in his mother's estate. If Solen divorced him, she would get some assets but not the inheritance. But if she was disabled, Grafton would never leave her. He would take care of her. And when his mother died and the inheritance came through, she would be a disabled widow inheriting everything, Corbett finished, his voice horrified. But Grafton just had a heart attack. That was natural causes, was it? I thought about Grafton's sudden death. 61, healthy, no warning signs. I called Dr. Pace Hollis, the medical examiner who had handled Grafton's autopsy. Dr. Hollis, this is Temperance Vale. I am Grafton Thorne's sister-in-law. I have some questions about his autopsy. There was a pause. Mrs. Vale, I am not sure I can discuss details without proper authorization. Please, I have reason to believe his death was not natural. Another pause, longer this time. What kind of reason? I told him about Solen's faked paralysis, about the affair, about the timing of Grafton's death right after the inheritance cleared. Dr. Hollis listened carefully. Mrs. Vale, I am going to be honest with you. Grafton Thorne's heart attack was unusual. His heart tissue showed signs of arrhythmia consistent with digitalis toxicity. Digitalis? Like the heart medication? Or the poison? Digitalis comes from foxglove plants. In controlled doses, it is medication. In higher doses, it causes fatal heart arrhythmia. We did not test for it specifically because the death appeared natural and there was no reason to suspect foul play. But if you are telling me there might have been motive, can you test for it now? I asked urgently. If the body was embalmed, probably not. But I can request an investigation based on your information. I will need everything you have. Evidence, timeline, documentation. I contacted Detective Ramsey Ashcroft at Charleston Police Department that same day. I brought my laptop with the camera footage, the phone records, the timeline I had constructed. Detective Ashcroft was a sharp-eyed woman in her late 40s who listened to everything without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Mrs. Vale, what you are describing is conspiracy to commit murder and insurance fraud. These are serious allegations. I know, but I have evidence. You have footage of your sister walking, which proves she lied about being paralyzed. You have evidence of an affair. But you do not have proof she killed her husband. That is why I need your help. Dr. Hollis said Grafton's heart tissue showed signs of digitalis toxicity. If you can prove he was poisoned, and I can prove Solen had motive and opportunity. Detective Ashcroft nodded slowly. I will open an investigation. But I need you to keep this quiet. If your sister suspects we are looking into this, she might destroy evidence or flee. Can you continue acting normal around her? It was the hardest thing I ever did. For 2 weeks, I visited Solen daily, helped her with her supposed disability, listened to her cry about losing Grafton. All while knowing she had murdered him. Detective Ashcroft worked fast. She got a warrant for Solen's phone records, financial records, and medical records. She interviewed Dr. Greer Voss, Solen's neurologist, who confirmed there was no medical reason Solen could walk. The paralysis diagnosis had been based on Solen's reported symptoms and one MRI that showed spinal bruising, but no actual nerve damage. She fooled us, Dr. Voss admitted. She reported no sensation, no movement. We had no reason to doubt her. Police also discovered that Solen had taken out a life insurance policy on Grafton 2 years ago. $5 million, with her as the sole beneficiary. Combined with the inheritance, Solen would have been worth over $7 million. Detectives brought in Lennox Merrick for questioning. At first he denied everything. But when they showed him the camera footage of him entering Solen's house, the phone records, the timeline, he broke. She said it would be easy, Lennox confessed. She said Grafton was old and unhealthy. We just needed to help him along. She got the digitalis from her garden. Foxglove, she had been growing it for months. She would crush the flowers and steep them like tea, then add it to his morning coffee over several weeks. Small amounts, building up in his system. He started feeling tired, dizzy. Thought he was just stressed. Then she increased the dose right after the inheritance cleared. His heart could not handle it. Detective Ashcroft asked, when did the plan to fake paralysis start? Right after we started the affair. About 4 years ago. Solen knew Grafton would never divorce her, he was Catholic and traditional. But she wanted to be with me and have his money. So we staged the accident. You staged a car accident? She drove herself into a pole. Minor damage, but enough to claim injury. Then she just committed to the paralysis story. Grafton never questioned it. Her sister never questioned it. He said that last part with disgust, like I was stupid for believing my sister. I watched the interrogation through a one-way mirror, feeling sick. Why did you go along with this? Detective Ashcroft pressed. Lennox shrugged. She promised me half. $3.5 million. We were going to wait a year after Grafton's death, then announce her miraculous recovery. We would move to Costa Rica, live like royalty. The arrest happened on May 1st. Detective Ashcroft and 4 officers showed up at Solen's house early in the morning. I was there too. They needed me to let them in quietly. Solen was in her wheelchair in the bedroom when they entered. She looked confused, frightened. What is going on? Tempe, what is happening? Solen Vale Thorne, you are under arrest for the murder of Grafton Thorne, conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, and healthcare fraud. Detective Ashcroft read her rights. Solen's face went through several emotions. Confusion, denial, anger. Then she looked at me. Really looked at me. You, she whispered, you did this. You murdered your husband, I said quietly. You faked paralysis for 3 years and made me take care of you while you planned to steal everything. He was going to die eventually anyway. I just sped things up. And you were so eager to play the martyr, taking care of poor disabled Solen. You loved feeling needed. Her words were like knives. Stand up, please, Detective Ashcroft said. I cannot stand, Solen said automatically. I am paralyzed. We know you are not. We have video footage of you walking, exercising, and meeting with your lover. Stand up or we will lift you. Solen stared at the detective, then at me. Slowly, she stood up from the wheelchair. Her legs were steady, strong. She had never needed that chair. Get dressed. You are coming to the station. They took her away in handcuffs. I stood in the empty house, looking at the wheelchair left behind in the bedroom. Corbett came to get me an hour later. He found me sitting on the back porch, staring at the garden where I first saw the truth. Come home, Temperance, he said gently. The trial was scheduled for August. The prosecution had overwhelming evidence. The camera footage, Lennox's confession, the digitalis found in Grafton's system, the insurance policy, the phone records, the financial motive. Solen's defense attorney tried to argue that Lennox had acted alone, that Solen was manipulated. But Lennox testified against her. Described in detail how she planned everything, how she obtained the poison, how she administered it. The jury heard testimony from Dr. Voss about the faked paralysis. From me about the 3 years I spent caring for my sister. From Grafton's colleagues about his health before he died. It took the jury 3 hours to reach a verdict. Guilty on all counts. First-degree murder, conspiracy, fraud. The judge was not lenient. Mrs. Thorne, you committed one of the most calculated, cold-blooded murders I have seen in my career. You faked a disability to manipulate your husband's sympathy. You slowly poisoned him while he believed he was caring for you in your time of need. You exploited your sister's love and dedication. You destroyed your husband's life for money. This court sentences you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Solen showed no emotion. She just stared straight ahead. Lennox received 25 years for conspiracy and being an accessory to murder. The life insurance company voided the policy. Grafton's inheritance went to his cousins in Virginia, his closest living relatives. I got nothing from any of it, which was exactly what I wanted. After the sentencing, I stood outside the courthouse with Corbett. Reporters surrounded us, asking how I felt. I feel like I lost my sister twice, I said. Once when I thought she was paralyzed. And again when I learned who she really was. Someone asked if I regretted installing the cameras. No. If I had not, Grafton's murder would have gone unpunished. Solène would have collected millions of dollars and lived happily with her lover. Justice required the truth, no matter how painful. We drove home to Mount Pleasant. Our house felt different now, quieter. I had spent 3 years planning my life around Solène's needs. Now I had to figure out who I was without that responsibility. Corbett and I finally took that trip we had been planning before the accident. We spent a month in Italy, walking through ancient cities, eating good food, remembering what it felt like to just be together. People ask me sometimes how I missed the signs, how I did not know my sister was faking. The truth is, I trusted her. She was my sister. When someone you love tells you they are in pain, you believe them. You do not suspect they are performing an elaborate con. But I also learned something about myself through this nightmare. I am stronger than I thought. Strong enough to face ugly truths. Strong enough to turn in my own sister when I discovered she was a murderer. Strong enough to rebuild a life after betrayal. Dr. Voss, Solène's former neurologist, called me 6 months after the trial. Mrs. Vale, I wanted you to know that I am implementing new protocols for paralysis diagnosis. More rigorous testing, independent verification, psychological evaluation. What your sister did has changed how we approach these cases. Other patients have been caught faking since we increased scrutiny. You may have saved future victims. That helped, knowing that something good came from something so terrible. It has been 2 years now. Solène is in a women's correctional facility in Colombia. She has never written to me, never asked to see me. I think about her sometimes, wonder if she feels any remorse. Probably not. People like her, people who can fake paralysis for 3 years and murder their husband without conscience, do not suddenly develop empathy. Lennox is in a different facility. He apparently found religion in prison, writes letters of apology to Grafton's family. They do not respond. I am 65 now. Corbett is 67. We are actually retired this time, no more caregiving duties stolen by lies. We volunteer at a local hospital. I help with physical therapy patients. I know the real ones from the fakers now. Grafton's cousins sent me a letter last year, thanking me for uncovering the truth. They said they wished they could have known him better, wished they had more time. I think about that a lot. Time. Grafton lost years of his life to Solène's greed. I lost 3 years to her lies. But I got out, I survived, and I made sure she faced consequences. That has to be enough. Because in the end, justice is not about revenge. It is about truth, and the truth, no matter how painful, is always worth fighting for. So that's my story. A nightmare that started with a car accident that never really happened and ended with my sister behind bars where she belongs. I'm 65 now. Solène is serving life without parole at Leith Correctional Institution in South Carolina. She'll be there until she dies. Lennox Merrick is in a different prison, eligible for parole in 18 more years. He writes letters claiming he's found God and feels remorse. I don't believe him. People who can poison someone slowly over weeks don't suddenly develop a conscience. Grafton's cousins got the inheritance, which feels right. They send me Christmas cards every year, thanking me for giving them justice for a family member they barely got to know. That gratitude means more to me than any amount of money ever could. The 3 years I spent caring for Solène, bathing her, feeding her, sacrificing my own retirement plans, those years are gone forever. I can't get them back. But here's what I learned through all of this. Sometimes the cruelest betrayals come from the people we love most. The people we trust without question. The people we'd sacrifice everything for. Solène knew me better than almost anyone. She knew I was a caregiver by nature, that I'd drop everything to help family, that I'd never suspect my own sister of manipulating me. She used my love as a weapon. She turned my compassion into a tool for her con. And she almost got away with it. If I hadn't looked out that window at the exact right moment on the exact right morning, Grafton's murder would have been ruled natural causes. Solène would have collected over $7 million. She and Lennox would be living in some beach house in Costa Rica right now, drinking cocktails and laughing about how easy it was to fool everyone. But I did look out that window. And I trusted my eyes over my emotions. That's the hardest thing. Choosing to believe what you're seeing even when your heart is screaming that it can't be true. People ask me all the time if I feel guilty about turning in my own sister. If blood being thicker than water should have stopped me from going to the police. My answer is always the same. Solen stopped being my sister the moment she faked that accident. Every time she let me help her to the bathroom when she could walk perfectly fine, every tear she cried about her lost mobility, every moment she watched me sacrifice my life for her, those were choices she made. She chose greed over family. She chose murder over integrity. She chose to make me an accomplice in her con without my knowledge or consent. I didn't betray her. She betrayed me first. I just refused to let her get away with it. The cameras saved Grafton's justice. That footage of Solen walking around her house at night, exercising, dancing, meeting with her lover, that was the proof that broke the case wide open. Without it, I would have just been a grieving sister with a wild theory. With it, I was a witness with irrefutable evidence. Dr. Greer Voss, Solen's former neurologist, told me something that helps me sleep at night. After Solen's conviction, the hospital implemented new protocols for diagnosing paralysis. More rigorous testing, independent verification, psychological screening. They've caught 4 other patients faking disabilities since then. 4 people who were manipulating the medical system and their families for sympathy, money, or control. My sister's evil exposed a weakness in the system. And now that weakness has been fixed. Other families won't go through what I went through. Other Graftons won't be murdered by spouses they trust. That has to mean something. Corbett and I finally took our retirement trip. We spent 6 weeks in Italy, walking through Rome, Venice, Florence. Every step I took, I thought about Solen sitting in that prison cell, never walking freely again. There's a dark satisfaction in that. She stole my mobility by forcing me to stay home and care for her. Now she's the one who's actually trapped. I volunteer at the Medical University Hospital now, working with real physical therapy patients. People who genuinely can't walk, who are fighting every day to regain mobility. I can spot the fakers immediately now. The ones whose pain doesn't match their injury. The ones whose symptoms are too perfect, too consistent. I report them, every single time. Because Grafton deserved better. I deserved better. And every real disabled person out there deserves a system that isn't being exploited by con artists and murderers. My nephew asked me recently if I ever miss Solen. Miss the sister she used to be before all of this. The truth is, I don't know if that sister ever really existed. Maybe the woman who faked paralysis and murdered her husband was always there, hiding behind a charming smile and sisterly affection. Maybe I never really knew her at all. What I do know is this. Evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it looks like your sister crying in a wheelchair. Sometimes it sounds like, I need you, and thank you for taking care of me. Sometimes it lives in your guest house and accepts your sacrifices while planning something unspeakable. But evil always leaves evidence. Always makes mistakes. Always gets too confident. Solen's mistake was thinking I'd never question her. Never investigate. Never choose truth over family loyalty. She was wrong. If you're watching this and something feels off about a situation you're in, if someone's story doesn't quite add up, if their disability seems inconsistent, if their grief feels performative, trust that instinct. Document what you see. Ask hard questions. Don't let love or loyalty blind you to red flags. I loved my sister. I would have done anything for her. And she used that love to destroy 3 years of my life while plotting murder. Love is powerful, but truth is more powerful. Justice is more powerful. Solen will spend the rest of her life in prison. She'll never stand in her garden again. Never walk freely down a street. Never feel sunshine without bars between her and the sky. Grafton is at peace now. His real family knows the truth. His murder has been avenged. And me? I'm free. Free from the lies. Free from the burden of caring for someone who never needed care. Free to live the retirement I postponed for a sister who never deserved my sacrifice. That's not revenge. That's justice. And it's exactly what all of us deserved. Thank you for listening to my story. Watch the people you love, but watch yourself too. Don't let anyone, family, friend, spouse, turn your compassion into their weapon. And if you discover someone you love has committed a terrible crime, have the courage to speak up. Because some betrayals are too evil to forgive. Some lies are too monstrous to protect. My sister taught me that the hard way. Now she has the rest of her life to think about what she's lost. And I have the rest of mine to finally live it the way I was always meant to, free, truthful, and unafraid. Faking a disability for insurance fraud is a federal crime carrying up to 10 years in prison. If you suspect disability fraud, contact the National Insurance Crime Bureau at 1-800-TEL-NICB or visit nicb.org. And now to the lovely viewers of this channel. Got a story? Let's tell it together. Here on this channel, your voice matters. If you have a personal story, a revenge moment, a betrayal twist, or even an idea that you think would make our narrative sharper, more emotional, or more entertaining, share it with us. Tell us what themes you want more of, what twists keep you hooked, what parts of our stories hit you the hardest, or what you'd love to hear next. Drop your thoughts, stories, and suggestions in the comments below. Let's build this amazing community together, one powerful story at a time. Your story could be the next one featured. Don't be shy, we're listening. And we would always respond. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more satisfying stories like this.